baby, here I go. Start the show, beat on my heart, now about to explode. I'm about to explode. Feel good, what I'm feeling, what I'm feeling.
Hello, and welcome. I'm Erica Salee, Transformation Success Coach. Welcome to this episode of Ignite Your True Self. These are conversations that I will be bringing to you each and every week to enlighten you as to what might be holding you back from reaching your goals and achieving the level of success that you deem for yourself. And of course, to give you the fuel to keep you moving forward. All right. So tonight's topic is all about goals versus resolutions. But before we get into the topic for tonight, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and use the hashtag Ignite Your True Self so that as you are watching this conversation, you want to post something about it, you want to make a comment, I do encourage you to, yes, use the hashtag Ignite Your True Self so that people in your circle know what you are doing this evening, hanging out with me for this episode. So let's talk about this whole conversation around goals versus resolutions. Now, it's so appropriate now that we are in the beginning of the year. It is January the 12th. So technically, it still is Happy New Year. And, I know how it is when we look at the brand new year and we're starting to think about all the things that we want to get accomplished. We're making those resolutions. And, many people make the resolutions. But here's the thing. When we look up in a short amount of time, we might not even be doing the things that we made the resolutions about. Okay. So the issue is that when we start thinking about making these resolutions, we turn around and we look and we're just like, okay, what have I gotten anything accomplished? What have I actually gotten done? And we're gung-ho with it, in the beginning. And then we look up and we say, well, dang, I'm back to the old. And then you get to the end of the year and you're really frustrated with yourself because you're like, man, when I started out this year, I intended to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm looking back and I don't know what I got done, right? So here's what I want you to do. If you are with me live, I want you to actually share with me whether or not you make New Year's resolutions. Okay. Now I'm going to raise my hand because I am going to tell you that I can think of at least 5 times over the last 5, 10, 15 years where I made the resolution and like I said, you look up and you're like, well, what in the world? What have I gotten done? So if you know that is you, if it sounds so familiar, and even if you're at the point right now while you're watching this video and you say, yep, I made my resolutions. I already made them. In fact, I made them before the new year even came in. Then go ahead and type it in the comment and say, yep, that's me. Or type your name or just say, yep, I can identify. Because I know for sure that if you have 10 people in a room and you poll them, at least 5 people are going to say, yeah, I make the New Year's resolution. So here's what I want you to do. When you listen to this conversation, and I've got so many notes here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to make sure that I capture everything that I wanted to share with you tonight. So here's the thing. If you find yourself stuck in what I like to call the resolution rut, then I want you to think about it from this perspective. Now, as I was preparing for this conversation, I was really trying to put it into context because I was like, the resolution piece is where we often just get mired into moving and then we just get stuck. So why is that? And so I tried to think about it from this perspective. And here's what I want to share with you, that if you start thinking about holding on to this idea of I got to get this done, I got to make sure this happens in 2023. Here's what I want you to think about. I want you to perhaps do away with the idea of a resolution. I want to say that again. get rid of the idea of making resolutions. Now you might be saying, but I want to get these things done in 2023. So how can I get rid of resolutions and still be able to do that? Well, here's what I'm going to share with you. So here is a definition of a resolution. And I want to read this to you specifically. A resolution is a firm decision to do or not to do something. Okay. I want just listen to that again. A firm decision to do or not to do something. It's like saying, I'm not going to eat cookies in 2023, or I'm just going to rip up my credit card and I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to use another credit card. Now, when you think about that, that is a finite statement. Okay. Firm decision to do or not to do something. A goal, on the other hand, is the object of a person's ambition. So you're looking more at the end result rather than a firm decision to do or not to do something. So if you think about a resolution as this finite thing, I'm absolutely positively not going to do this anymore. And you think about a goal as, okay, if I focus on the end result, then it kind of gives me a little bit more wiggle room to make something happen versus being stuck in a box and I feel like I just have no way to maneuver around to make it happen. Okay. So keep those two definitions in mind as we talk through the conversation tonight. So when you listen to the tips that I'm going to share with you, there's three things that I really want you to think about in terms of what you're going to walk away with. Number one, you'll think about this from a more systematic approach to achieving success. So, as opposed to being stuck in this idea of the resolution framework, the finite way of trying to make something happen, you can kind of look at it from a different perspective, right? Creating a different type of system that re-triggers your brain on how to think about moving forward to achieve your goals. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, and this is probably the simplest way to think about this conversation, resolutions versus goals, is that you're taking the pressure off of yourself. Now, just think about, and I'm going to get a little bit more into this in a few moments, but just think about how we put ourselves on this trajectory. Like the beginning of the year, everybody's excited, they're gung ho, you're putting in your best effort, you're making it happen, you're making moves, and then you start to feel like, oh my gosh, I got to keep up this momentum. I got to keep up this momentum. So you're really thinking about this conversation from the perspective of, oh, if I reshift myself away from resolutions and more toward goals, then I'm kind of taking that finite pressure off based on the definition that I just gave you of resolutions a little bit a while ago. Okay. And then the third thing is that when you think about these three tips that I'm going to share, you can increase the likelihood of you reaching various levels of success that you really, really desire for yourself. And here's the thing. We can define success in so many different ways because each of us, we're all different. We have different ideas about what success looks like for each of us. So as you're listening to this conversation and you hear me say the word success, recognize that you get to define what that looks like for you. So when you begin to shift away from this idea of resolutions and you move more into the focus of goals, then you're really looking at setting yourself up for an increased level of success, okay? And being able to look back and say, oh, look at what I was able to get accomplished, all right? So here's the first tip. The first tip is, and here's the thing. So how many times, and I had to, when I looked at this, I thought, I had to look at it again because it was really kind of shocking to kind of see some of the statistics around what level of success people have when they make resolutions. But how many times have you made those New Year's resolutions either at the end of the previous year or at the beginning of the new? You start gung-ho in January, and then come February, March, you kind of trailed off. Okay? So here's a stat for you. 23%, there was one poll that surveyed a group of people, and 23% quit in the first week. Okay? Now, When you think about resolutions, most of the resolutions are pertaining to weight loss, pertaining to healthy living or healthy eating, and pertaining to money. I want to save more money, want to try to figure out how to get more of it. So those three things are really top of mind for many people when they're saying, okay, when this new year comes, this is what I'm going to focus on. But 23% of people quit within the first week, and then 36% only make it past the first month. So what this says to me is that by the end of January, you're just like, what did I say I wanted to do? 23% of the people polled who made resolutions in this particular survey quit in the first week, and 36% make it past the first month. So that means there's 11 other months where people might just be all willy-nilly, right? And really not committing to themselves. So if you're just coming into the conversation, what I want you to think about is, if I shift myself away from resolutions and I focus more on the goals, then what does that look like? And so here is the first tip. The first tip is to, one, yes, begin to say, all right, I'm moving out of this idea of the finite, to do or not to do something. It puts me inside of this box. It doesn't give me wiggle room. So I'm going to not only just focus on the goal or focus on achieving goals, but I'm also going to attach that goal to a why. I'm going to attach it to a why. So here's how that might show up. So in a resolution, you might say, I'm not going to eat cookies in the new year. I'm just not going to do it. Okay. That's a firm decision to do or not to do something. So now what you're doing is you're boxing yourself into this space of, okay, if I go out to dinner and they have cookies on the menu for dessert, or I go to a friend's party or another family gathering and they have cookies. Oh, no. I'm not going to do that, because I've already put myself into this finite place to say I'm never going to do that again. That's how the resolution might sound. So in this tip, where you're attaching the goal to a why, as opposed to saying I'm not going to eat cookies, then the question is, well, why am I cutting out sweets, right? The goal is forcing you to ask a question. So you might say, well, my why is because I want to be healthier. I want to make sure that I maintain the right levels within my body so that I'm treating my body well. I want to make sure that I give myself more natural ways of enjoying the things that I like, the sweets. Maybe I have a sweet tooth. So here's how that goal might shift from the finite box of a resolution. It might sound something like, well, I'm going to cut out eating sweets or reduce the amount of sweets that I eat, because my why is that I want to take better care of myself. So now with that, what you're really doing is you're giving yourself the opportunity to give yourself grace, because there may be a moment in time where you say, well, as a matter of fact, I probably will eat some cookies at some point in this new year. Here's an example. So a couple days ago, I decided, now I have a sweet tooth. I'm not really the kind of person who has to have something sweet to eat all the time. But there comes a moment when I do want something sweet. And that's where I was this past week, or, early this week. And so I decided that, yes, I wanted some cookies, but I decided to make my vegan oatmeal cranberry walnut cookies. So as opposed to me saying, no, it's the new year, I can't eat anything sweet, I'm not going to, what I decided to do was to say, well, yes, I'm going to fix something sweet, but I'm going to also make sure that I'm aligning this with my why. My why is I want to make healthier choices, have better options for myself, make sure I look at the things that I eat so that, I'm not eating, a whole lot of things that are not good for me. So my approach to this was, as opposed to using some resolution that said I'm never going to do this again, let me take the healthier option, because I'm aligning this to my why, which helps me to say, okay, as opposed to cutting it out altogether, then let me look at the option that's going to help me to align with that why. Okay, so hopefully you got that and that makes sense. All right, so here's the second tip. The second tip is to really take the marathon approach to your goals. Again, so we're kind of moving this resolution thing out the way. Resolution, to do or not to do, very finite, doesn't give you the wiggle room. And then you get frustrated with yourself and then you just stop altogether. So I have family and friends who run marathons. Some of them do 5Ks, 10Ks. I have a brother who does the marine marathons. I've seen other of my friends do it. And I absolutely admire people who do, because I know that that's not something, I'm not saying I couldn't do it. I just don't think I want to do that. But here's the thing about a marathon, is that a marathon forces you to pace yourself. A marathon forces you to condition yourself on a time frame, right? So that you can build up your stamina and you can approach the marathon in a way that helps you to last through it. Okay. A lot of times when we look at resolutions, we kind of approach it from the perspective of a sprint, right? A sprint is like, oh my gosh, when the gun goes off, I'm running out the gate and I'm just going to run as fast as I possibly can. And when you run as fast as you possibly can, when you get close to the end of the race, or the finish line, you're probably like, whew, oh my gosh, breathing heavy, because you've come out and you are clicking on all cylinders and you're using all of your energy, all of your gas to move quickly. A marathon, however, says, I'm going to do this at a pace that's slow and steady. So when you think about this idea of goals and coming out of the new year, it's just like that marathon. Because if you come out real fast, that statistic says it. I'm going to go back to it. 23% of people in this poll quit in the first week. 33%, 36% only make it past the first month. Why? Because they're coming out in the sprint mentality. I got to do it. I got to do it quickly. I got to do it fast, because when I do that, then it's saying that, hey, see, look at me. I'm out here and I'm doing it quick. And then you run out of steam. So what I'm suggesting is that as you go through this year, taking that marathon approach helps you to be methodical, helps you to kind of pace yourself so that you don't give out and you don't utilize all of your energy at the very onset. And then you look up and you're like, oh gosh, well, I've used all my energy up in this first month or this first quarter, and now I don't have anything left to give. So I'm not willing to keep going because I have sprinted my way through. And then I look up and I'm like, well, what in the world did I get accomplished? Is that you? I know I've been there. I've done it. So think about goals from the perspective of, if I think about these goals as a marathon, then I'm giving myself a little bit more leeway and I'm allowing myself to ease into this space, right? So that I can reserve some of my energy and reserve some of my effort to go into the third tip that I'm going to share. And the third tip is to be persistent and consistent. Okay. So when you think about goals, persistency and consistency are going to be key. So, what is persistence? Persistence means that you keep going after it and you decide whatever that it is for you, because yours may be different from mine different from the next person. It is continuing to go after it regardless of what's going on. No excuses. Maybe you are looking for resources and you say, okay, this is where I am and I don't really know. So let me keep going. Let me reach out to the right people. Let me make some new connections. That's persistency. Consistent is means that you are putting in the time and effort on a regular basis. So when you look at this goal that you have created for yourself, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to look at that from an even more systematic approach, which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. But you're really saying to yourself, I'm going to keep at it, right? I'm going to um, move excuses out of the way for myself, and I'm going to do it on a regular basis. So here's the thing. So I have two friends, two of my dearest friends, and we have this text chat going. And so, typically when it's cold outside, I don't like to go out. I love to walk, but when it gets cold, I kind of shy away from going out so much, and then I look for other options to do some things inside. Because my goal is to maintain a healthy approach to living. It is to ensure that I work out 5 days a week, right? That's my goal. And so my other two friends were sort of like in this space where, oh my goodness, yeah, I don't have the time and I got to keep moving and I got to. So I'm sharing with them in this space of persistency and consistency. And it's not always easy because there are times, oh my gosh, when I get up and I'm like, I just don't feel like it. And I'm sure you've been there too. So I have to say to myself, okay, am I making an excuse for not doing this? And if I start to make excuses, I've got to go back to the first tip that I share with you. And that is to attach this thing to a why. And so when I think about being persistent, I've got to move the stuff out of my head that's telling me, it's too cold outside. You don't want to go outside and walk. Well, then you find some other options to work out or to do some exercise in the house. There's lots of different options. And if you've been on a social media space with me before, I've talked a little bit about a free app that I use. Fit On is one of them, and nobody's asking me to promote, but this is something that I use that helps me out quite a bit, has lots of different options, and there's tons of other things on social media to find. So persistency is moving the excuses out of the way. So then when you think about that goal, you're saying to yourself, I'm going to keep going after it regardless of whether people believe in it, regardless of whether people support it, regardless of whether people think I should do it or not. I'm going to make sure that I define this for myself so that I can keep at it. Okay. Consistency is that you are putting in the time and the effort. Now, depending on what your goal is, it might not require you to take a lot of time. I talk a lot about stress management and making sure to honor yourself by practicing self-care. And so I talk a lot about meditation and breath work. And part of that is, it doesn't take a lot of time to honor yourself using these two practices. So consistency means I'm putting in the time and the effort, but I really don't have to put in a whole lot of time for this particular thing. All right. If this goal is attached to self-care, well-being, I don't need to take a whole lot of time to do certain things. Now, you may have other goals that require you to put in more time. But even in that, and I don't want to get too much into it tonight, but there's a way to kind of break those things down, which is part of what we're going to talk about next week. So here's the thing. These are the 3 tips that, I'm just quickly sharing with you tonight. But here's what I also want you to think about. I'm going to post a link to a worksheet that you can download. And it talks about SMART goals. I know everybody has heard it. It's nothing that's going to be unfamiliar to you. It's SMART goals with a twist is how I'm framing it. The SMART goals is specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, relevant, and it's time-based, okay? So the worksheet breaks out all of the different definitions and gives specific examples. So when you think about shifting from I'm making resolutions, the finite way of looking at achieving success, and you shift into goals, then this kind of outlines for you how to think about it. So when you look at the worksheet, it gives you specific examples, so you can actually go through each of the SMART formula and you can define, and I'm going to say start with one goal, okay? Start with one goal, define it through the SMART formula, but at the end of the worksheet, you will see a question. And that question is, well, why is this goal important to you? Remember, it's going to take you back to the first tip. The first tip says, when you think about these goals, don't just put it out there, but ask yourself why you are doing this. And when you do that, it kind of moves you out of the likelihood or the risk that you're part of the statistic, the 23% that doesn't make it past the first, what was it, the first week when you set out in this brand new year, and getting more toward the end of the year, and you're like, oh my gosh. So if you follow these 3 tips, and I'm going to go back through them really, really quickly before we wrap up. The first tip is to attach your goal to a why. So when you download the worksheet, you'll see the formula SMART, and at the end, it's like, okay, well, why is this important to you? And really, really make it a compelling reason why. Okay. When I think about one of the things that's really important to me in terms of physical exercise and the things that I eat, I think about the fact that at 52, I'm 52 years old, and thankfully, I the only medication that I take are vitamins. Okay. So when I think about some of my goals as it pertains to exercise and fitness and things that I eat, I think about one of my compelling reasons is because I want to keep it that way. Like, I want to maintain my health in such a way that allows me to still just be able to take my vitamins. I want to have as much longevity as I possibly can control. And I want to be able to enjoy a quality of life that allows me to freely move about and do things that allow me to enjoy life physically, mentally, spiritually. So when you download the worksheet, I really want you to think about, what are my reasons why I want to achieve this goal? Okay, so that's the first tip. The second tip is to take the marathon approach. I probably cannot say this enough. When we first start out the year, here's the thing. Now, I heard this on a show I was listening to a couple days ago, is that in January, fitness centers are like packed. And especially now that we're, out of COVID, and at least to the height that it was in 2020, and people are getting back into the groove and doing the things that they typically do, fitness centers are like packed to the hilt. I would love to just be a fly on the wall and just watch the progression, that January on and popping, everybody's in there. Come February, okay, they still might be in it. March, April, May, kind of moving out, right? So when we take the marathon approach, it says that we are pacing ourselves. Now, let me share this example with you. So let's say, for instance, if you say, and this is common, we all hear people want to lose, I want to lose 20 pounds in 2020 or 2023. I'm going back to 2020. We don't want to do that. So let's say the goal is I want to lose 20 pounds. And maybe this is your first time really focusing on a fitness routine, working out. Maybe you joined a gym, or maybe you found some other means to be consistent with your workout. The marathon approach says, if I haven't been in the gym ever, or it's been a while, then if you run out of the gate in January and you take the sprint approach and you're like, I'm gonna be in the gym 5 days a week and I'm just gonna get it in, you are going to burn yourself out. So the marathon approach says, okay, well, if I haven't been in the gym ever, or it's been a while, then let me start off with 1 day a week. Okay, 1 day a week. And then you pace yourself, right? Get into the flow. Let your mind tell you that it's okay and that it feels good to do it. Let your body get used to getting into the swing and using the muscles that maybe you haven't used in a while. And then after you've done it 1 day a week, you might say, all right, I've been doing 1 day a week for like 30 days. Now let me do 2 days a week. And you stick with 2 days a week for 30 days, maybe 60 days. This is where that SMART formula is going to come in when you download that worksheet, because really you're being specific about what you're doing. We're not going to get into all the details here. I'm just going to share these 3 tips, and then you can go and kind of talk through the work through the worksheet. All right. So then you might say, okay, I've gone 2 days a week now. Let me do 3 days. So you see how that works. So you're taking that marathon approach and you're being really methodical about it, because then that way you're easing into it, and then your routine becomes persistent and you're consistent. So persistency says, I'm gonna go after it and I'm gonna keep doing it. Right? No matter whether if it's raining outside, or, if the weather's not good, then okay, let me find another alternative. Like I was sharing with you earlier. And I was talking about my 3 girlfriends. I don't know if I ever really finished that thought, but basically what we're doing is we're encouraging each other in that space so that we're consistent, and that, when one person is doing it, we're kind of feeding off the other person, so that if somebody says, oh, I don't feel like walking, then somebody else posts their video in our little group chat, and it's like, okay, she's being consistent, so let me go out there and do it. So persistency says, regardless of, I'm still going to go after this goal. Consistency says, I'm going to make sure that I put the time and the effort into this, because it's just that important. And all of this tracks back to the first tip, which is the why. So as I wrap up the conversation for tonight, 2 things. I'm going to, again, let you know, I'm going to post the link. Actually, I'm going to post the link inside of the spaces that this video is streaming. So I'll post the link on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, so that you can download the free worksheet, the SMART worksheet. And the most important part, and I probably can't emphasize this enough, is when you get to the end of it, it's going to ask you why. Why is this important? Now, you can start with one goal just to kind of get yourself focused on these 3 tips, and then you can apply it to other areas that you may want to focus on for the year. The other thing that I would mention really quickly, and I want to make sure that I say this, is that sometimes we can overwhelm ourselves with goals. Like, I want to get this done and this done and this done. I want to do this, this, and this. And you look up and you've got a list of 10 things. And then that's something to frustrate you even more, because you're like, okay, I don't know where to start, or can I do this? And then that's what then pulls us back, right? When we look up and we're like, well, what did I get accomplished? So if you start this worksheet with one specific goal and one why, follow that through. And then when you get ready to, you feel like you're in a good space with having reached that, then you can move into something else. That's just a suggestion. You get to decide whether or not that'll work for you. But I just wanted to mention that, because that's something else that sometimes will kind of box us in and not allow us to accomplish anything. All right. So let me let you know this, that once you download the worksheet, and you start going through it, and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, okay, I'm defining these goals, but I'm not really sure how I'm going to approach it, because this is like a major thing for me, or it's a little thing, and I just don't even know how to keep moving forward to make sure that even though I've written it down, that I'm going to be successful at it. So if you have questions about what pertains specifically to you as you work through that, then I'm going to encourage you to reach out to me, and let's schedule a free discovery session. It's complimentary. It doesn't cost you anything except about 30 minutes of your time. So if you say, I'm trying to figure out how to maneuver and move forward in the best possible way so that I can achieve levels of success that I define for myself, and maybe you need help with that, then go to TruSynergy.org. There is a link at the top of the page where you get to schedule some time. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but sometimes you might need to get out of your own head. You might write it down, and it might look like it makes sense, or it might not make sense. Or you might be saying, I don't even know where to start. I see this SMART formula. I hear you talking about the compelling reason and make sure I attach my why, but how do I do that? So if you think that you might need help with how to navigate through that, then absolutely do go to TruSynergy.org so that we can spend some time together outside of this communal space that we are in right now. And as I come to the close of this conversation, let's talk about next week. Next week, I want you to join me and we'll be talking about whether or not you are maximizing your time. Whew, we're still in the month. We'll still be in the month of January, right? So it's a perfect time to be thinking about how are we really allocating and utilizing our time. I hear so many people saying, and again, I'm gonna just drop this and then I'm gonna have you just meet me right here again next week, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But how many times have you ever said, I don't have time? I don't have time. Well, I'm going to share a little bit about why you might want to rethink saying that. Just saying. Only way you're going to find out is come on back. Join me next week, same time, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Ignite Your True Self. I'm super excited to continue holding this space with you. I'm going to ask you this, that if you were able to join tonight, I want you to invite your friends, your family, folks in your space to come back into this space and join me the next time. So many nuggets and so many tidbits that I have planned for you throughout the year. And, these are things that as I share with you, they're, partly my experience with my clients. And I know that everybody grabs a little something, right? Something might pertain to you over here, maybe not so much here, and vice versa. So the goal is to get as much as you possibly can so that whatever that thing is on the inside of you, that you no longer make excuses for why you can't or why it won't work, or, I've been doing this so long, why should I want to do anything different? That maybe, just maybe, when you hang out in this space, that you will find just a little bit of a spark to just keep you moving forward into whatever that best version of you is, the true version of yourself, mind, body, spirit, personally and professionally, so that you live fulfilled and purposefully in everything that you do, in every space that you occupy. So, on that note, I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, I want you to take care of yourself and, yes, be well.